Okay, now we're moving into the communication task, the commercial worksite. So away we go.
Listen to Lyle talking about why communication is so important.
I've switched the audio up for this demonstration. All the voiceovers were professionally recorded, but I just wanted to get a sense of, for this demonstration, of why we're using real people.
Communicating is about understanding what is going on and making sure other people understand you. Some things we communicate with words, some with pictures, and some with numbers. Even sounds and gestures are important. For example, the person directing a crane driver on a building site may use a whistle and arm movements to tell the crane driver what to do.
So that little example there is pretty much sums up the intent of the product, to contextualize the learning, to use examples from a commercial worksite when talking about communication. You know, a lot of the existing resources was very generic, so this was an opportunity to make it relevant. So once this first activity is complete, something a little bit different.
The locker room. You'll need your PPE gear before you go on site.
As I was saying, something a little bit different happens here. Commercial worksite is a big thing, and we want to keep bringing them back to this little bit of a hub, and give them an idea of bouncing out of here and coming back every time to a central point. So we're looking for a locker room here, and there it is.
Before you can go on site, you must be wearing personal protective equipment.
So this is a bit of a learning by doing type activity. This is content woven through an activity, so as they go along and they test their ideas, they can check and learn as they go, and and it's just a really nice little interactive to get them warmed up, because there's quite a bit of drag and drop, which increases in complexity as this one goes along. So now activity 3, you're about to do a job, so you need to choose the correct PPE. And you have to think about the context. So you're going to frame a second story external wall on an industrial site. I certainly wouldn't know what to use, but this is testing certificate 3 level as well. Initially I just sort of chuck on everything, and as a lot of students might do, but this was a bit of a tricky one, because if we check it, we find that the gloves actually aren't part of it, surprisingly enough, because if they're framing, they need to use a hammer and nails, and can't do that with gloves on. So yeah, all relevant. Okay, so after that task, now we've been asked to head up to the rooftop. Just give them that idea of they're walking around the site, going from one place to another.
There's a phone message for you from the site supervisor. Listen to the message.
So this is very similar to before. You listen to the message and you type, which I had demonstrated before. But just a little thing we entered here was, yes, we couldn't test what they were doing, but if they wanted to just get over it and move on, we put in a little Easter egg thing where you can't actually check it until you've actually put in, I think it's about 50 characters, so it just forces the student to think about, hang on, maybe I actually have to put something in here, but they don't really get tested on it, and the answers then come up just to summarize, and they can review themselves. Okay, so as you can see, time to head out on site. Use the door across the room, which is over here. Worksite.
Listen to Lyle talk about safety and then drag the descriptions of hazards onto the red tags. Click the video tab to watch the video.
Okay, so this is the video tab, and these were the voices of experience that I was mentioning before, and the idea was to build up a bank of little snippets of real life stories. And it's firing up.
One of the tricky things about making a workplace safe is that to build something you use equipment and you make a fair bit of a mess. But if you let the mess pile up, that's when an accident happens. You've got to check everything. Wear the right gear, check your equipment, check the ground below you and what's above you. Know where other people are on the site and what they're doing. Make sure that people can't just wander in off the street, and keep the place tidy. You forget one little thing and it can catch you out. I remember one time I'd finished work and I was going to drive home, so I took off my safety boots and put on my runners for the drive home. I realised I'd let my tape measure up on the scaffold, so I went in, climbed up the scaffold and got it. I jumped down the last bit, but what do you know? I jumped onto a bit of wood with a nail in it, went straight through my runners and through my foot and right out the top. The boss drove me to hospital with the nail.
Okay, it's kind of amusing, but it's still serious, and you know, they're the voices of experience, these little stories or anecdotes to help back up the seriousness of what they're doing. We thought was a great concept. So this is a more complex type of drag and drop activity. As you can see, they can actually scroll right around the site. They're looking for these red tags, which they use in the industry. So we are looking for no handrails near edge. So somewhere around here, I'll just be quick. There's a guy up there, so we grab it and we drop it on the tag. No scaffold working too close. Let's see. I think this is too many people working in the same place. There's sparks going in his face there, so we drop it in there. I think that's a hole. No warning sign on a hole. So pretty self-evident, but you know what? Just get some thinking about that OH&S stuff, and you can check it and you can see what still needs to go. So yeah, this was a really good little activity and really put them in the picture, I guess. Now in this activity, the students are required to match hazards with levels of risk. They've identified many hazards, and what constitutes a high, medium or low risk is highlighted here because it's a how-to. This is content, so rather than spinning off to a new page, it was just easy to put that in. Just as a bit of an adjunct, the industry partners at the time were really concerned about showing an unsafe work site. This was being built as we were building the product, so they didn't want any sort of legal repercussions. So we had to sign off on some legal documents, so no one was liable for any of these puddles and rubbish that we'd placed in there. And look, the guys look cartoony, but we had to sort of make it that way, so it was kind of realistic but not too realistic. And the union rep, as part of the steering committee as well, wanted us to use stock footage instead of real people, so you know, no one could be accused of working in an unsafe environment. And you know, at the time we were kind of, as a production team, shaking our heads, but it was great to have that sort of feedback there, and it was a great example of the benefit of rapid prototyping, because without that feedback we could have built this whole thing, gone to release it, and then those issues would have been brought up and it would have been a huge problem, because this building would have been built more than it was in these photos, and trying to stitch it with other interactives would have been a nightmare. So rapid prototyping to the rescue, basically. So he could die or be seriously injured, so he's high. I think that's medium. That looks like he could die. Yeah, okay, power tool's not tagged, could be low, not really sure. But contextualize feedback, which is really good, rather than yes, correct, it's why, which is another benefit of these really well thought out feedback from the instructional designers. Activity 7, place safety signs. Pretty sure it's a very simple drag and drop. Yes, it is. Again, communication signs, very important when it comes to OH&S, and a kind of fun little thing just to check that they know what these things actually mean. You notice that they do take up a fair bit of real estate, but when you so there's a bit of a problem of, okay, we've got this huge sign, how do we fit it in there? Well, we just have a little bit of a, we let them drop in and blow up a little bit so you can still recognize them. I'm talking, not thinking, so I can tell right now that I'm going to have a massive fail, but anyway, just demonstrating how bad I am. But simple drag and drop. So after that activity, I should mention, after you complete an activity, you get spat out back into this area if you're moving to a new section. It should be mentioned though that that is only when you're following the linear format of locking and unlocking. These were unnecessary units to go to if you were accessing in the mode that we are, in a non-linear way. So I'm just actually completing these activities and pressing continue, and it's taking me to these areas.
Look at the material safety data sheet, MSDS, for Portland Cement.
So another really important document that they wanted to reference was MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheets, and again it was one of these challenges of, here's a 4-page document, how do we squeeze it into the product? Well, we can't do that on screen, but we wanted to take pieces out of it and get them to reference it. So a bit of clever design there was to recreate the data sheet with the header and footer, and actually just have sections and have these questions relate to the section. Yeah, interesting that we sent them to the lunchroom just when we were scouting and talking on site. Good place for bulletin boards apparently, because people have the time to sort of browse them and away from noise. And you can see in all these scenarios there's photos of the actual areas, but it's pretty subtle. We just wanted to connect with the student that you know, if we had a nice bright sunny sky, it just wouldn't make sense as a place where you would read a material safety data sheet. And the other interesting thing here is, although it seems quite a simple, you've only got 3 things to answer, there's so many combinations, 10 to 3, that trying to fluke it just gets frustrating. So it was good in user testing, they did actually go through and have a good read, and you learn some really good things about just basic cement, how hazardous it can be, and so yeah, simple but very effective little scenario, that one. Okay, we're up to activity 9 and we're still on the MSDS, but now it's a read and summarize activity. So how to read, how to summarize, and the MSDS are all there. And again, this isn't a test, it is a resource. So it's basically my opinion, and how I write it is important. and so you know, you just go through and you can see it's waiting for me to get enough characters to give me the check button, and then it gives you a bit of a summary anyway, and you know, it's saying that's what your sort of target is, so it's just a bit of normal feedback. Activity 10, this is where it's explaining an MSDS to a workmate, so it's really again testing their understanding and their testing their skill of information retention. So this is again, it's a drag and drop, but it's a bit of a creative way of doing it. If you burn yourself, what do you do? Go to the doctor or call an ambulance, I think. There's 10 of these. It goes along in a non-linear way. You can go in here. Brad Chapman, our web programmer, got pulled in for this one, and a couple of times just because we needed a body, and so duly credited, of course, as talent. But yeah, quite funny that you get little cameos sometimes when you're working on projects. So yeah, it's another drag and drop, but it's a matching sentences type of activity. Okay, so we're done with the cement now, and we head over to dispatch, and give the guys a hand.
Your boss sent you an email.
Okay, you've got an email now here to read, and this is pretty easy stuff. Read your email, put it in the right sequence. It's that logical thinking, ordering of information that we had in the numeracy one, but now it's carried across here into communication. Again, don't really read this stuff for the purpose of this demonstration, but you get the idea. Okay, we're at activity 12. We're in the dispatch area. At this stage, we are really starting to ramp up the complexity. We want the student to listen to a message, understand what's happened, remember who needs what, and then allocate them to them. So I'm going to actually play the audio on this and just let it play through to give you an idea of how the complexity is building up.
Hi, it's Simon. I know you're getting there at 8 tomorrow, but I've got to get the kids to school, so I won't be there till after 9. Mick from the suppliers promised me that delivery before 8:30, so I need you to check that he's got everything I ordered. There should be more to coming, 15 20-kilo bags, and another 5 20-kilo bags of lime. Lyle was running out yesterday. I've ordered a new hard hat for him as well. Craig needs more undercoat, so Mick's sending 2 20-litre tins, plus a 10-litre tin of grey oxide industrial primer. Also, check that there's a pack of 12 line marking cans for Craig. They should be yellow, but I've said orange will do if that's all they have. There's some stuff for Paul too. He's run out of fiberglass joint tape, so I've ordered 150 metres of it. That should be plenty. And there'll be a 50-kilogram bucket of wet area base coat for him as well. Hope it all goes smoothly. Just make a note of any problems and I'll sort them out when I get there. Thanks. See ya.
Yep, lots going on, and here's all these items arrived in dispatch. Luckily I was listening very intently that time, so I didn't want to embarrass myself. Undercoat is up here, oxide industrial primer, and then it was the marking tins, I think. Or you know, some intense scribbling there or listening just helps test the students out. Boom, finally got something right. Fantastic. Activity 13, again, complexity is ramping up. We're listening to a message and then passing on the information to other people. There's a little video here where Lyle has a little anecdote about why that's important, and so that's kind of interesting. It's not important, but it's relevant to that task, and the reason it's so complex is that there's 4 different responses, but any 4 of those only go into one of these slots. So I tried to fluke it before and it just took forever, because you go through every one of these scenarios and there's just so many choices that you've got to be a bit cluey and actually listen really hard to the phone. So again, it's challenging. It proved challenging for the students because and it kept them interested. After a couple of hours of working on this, if it's too easy, they just start to tune out. So it just makes it a bit harder. Okay, so I finally got through that interaction, and now we're going to do a final scout of the site before you knock off. And I just love that. I reckon it's good language. It's relevant. So
fire from a petrol spill. You have to take charge.
So this is an interesting one because it's a time-based activity, and you'll see what I mean when I start. It really puts you under pressure a bit. So we'll start the task. Alright, so yeah, obviously there's been an explosion and the time is ticking down waiting for me to make a decision, so you've got to kind of read and act pretty quickly, and this is the sort of thing they wanted to do, is get them thinking really fast. Call them and check it. There you go. So just in time. So yeah, it's good. Just sort of shock them back into consciousness if they're lagging, and it creates a bit of interest in the interactive. And this one event is now going to follow on in our sub scenario. So we'll go through that now. Activity 15. So there's been an incident, and the apprentice needs to call the supervisor and report what's happened. So a little vignette.
There's been an accident.
Okay, stay calm and tell me about it.
Well, you weren't there, and there was no one else in charge, and there was a fire from the petrol spill.
Crikey, are you alright? Take your time and tell me about it.
Yes, I'm fine.
I forgot about that voice. I think after 6 months of working on the project, we were just looking for any opportunity to have a bit of fun. And we had a bit of fun with this guy too, because he's playing the apprentice and he's actually a fully qualified builder. So yeah, we're having a bit of fun. But so again, it's analysing what's happening, and it's an interesting type of content because it's not often these guys have big, huge petrol spills and fires like we just saw. So these building up these sort of scenarios, it actually has some value as far as OH&S training. So that was what we were aiming for. So I won't bore you with the details, but you can go all the way through. Now this one's more linear, just to build up the complexity and tell the story. So yeah, that started the whole what are we going to do about this incident. So they need to again do some listening and fill in a form. With this sort of thing, you can't really write something down and ask them to fill it out because it's a little bit too obvious. So there's information about that incident report writing. They can also view a real incident report form, which is in the references, and this is the sort of thing that's used on site. And we've recreated it here.
Simon, there's been an accident.
Okay, stay calm and tell me about it.
Well, you weren't there, and there was no one else in...
Oh dear, I just love listening to that. Maybe that's why we put it in twice. So now I think we describe what happens. I'm going to cheat because I can. Yep, I thought so. You know, students can do that, but you know, they're not really learning anything by doing that. So, you know, it's just all, and there it's summarised for them as the answer. Okay, we finally made it to the last activity, the site meeting, and this is a bit of a wrap up of the incident. And gives the students an insight on how a meeting runs, how to conduct yourself in a meeting is one of those good resources, and there's 10 questions to follow, so I think it does go for quite a while.
Today. Simon, could you tell us what happened?
Well, I was off site, so I think Josh should fill you in.
Okay, Josh?
Well, Craig, no, I just finished up and I saw some smoke coming from the pile of rubbish near the gate.
So what did you do?
Well, because Simon wasn't there and I saw it first, I made sure I wasn't in danger.
Alright, I think I've been using this for too long now. But it goes through the steps of a meeting, you know, talking about the agenda, anyone apologies, and all the standard structure of a meeting. So that was good to put into this product.